Wait for it, wait for it. Oh, there we go. Very nice. No one in the world can tell that that's a Fox Podium. I got a lot of eyeballs. People asked me if it was a push, which I thought was pretty great because it's clearly an intend, as you can see. But I got a lot of questions about it, got a lot of eyeballs about it. I didn't see anyone take a photo, and I definitely did not say it was a Fox. Let's peel some tape off. The moment we've all been waiting for. Peeling some tape off. I have 2 days of riding it on this thing. So I'm not gonna say it's the best product in the world. I'm not gonna say anything about long-term maintenance. I will just say that 2 days in, I am really, really, really surprised and super impressed with what they've cooked up here. Howdy, this is Charlie from Vital MTB reviewing Fox's new 170mm travel Podium inverted fork. So this thing is wild. I remember when I first saw leaked pictures of this thing in our tech forums, I thought that going with a single crown inverted design was really weird. It was a bold direction for Fox, and I had a lot of doubts immediately about whether they'd be able to, just for starters, get an inverted single crown to be torsionally stiff enough for a big heavy guy like me. I'd also heard rumors about it being crazy heavy and expensive. So I went into the Fox Media camp in Leogang with a lot of questions. So dive in and hear my thoughts on this fork. Okay, well, I just got done doing back-to-back testing on my normal Zeb and the new Podium. So to keep it apples to apples, I actually used an MRP 10mm headset crown race spacer. With the MRP crown race, they're 1mm off. So it was more of an apples to apples comparison. A note about the axle, it's a 20mm axle. It's a 20mm by 110 boost axle. That's kind of annoying because every other trail fork on the planet is a 15 by 110 boost axle. So you might need to get a new front wheel. The good news on that is you might not if you're switching from your current fork. So like for instance, these E13 hubs that I have, it turns out that you can just get end caps for these. So I'll be able to still run this hub, and we actually have a link here. Can we do that in post? Boom, there's the link right there, awesome. There's a link to a forum on our site where you can share. We've had people share already, like Hadley's are switchable, everything from Hope is switchable, and then there were a couple others. So Raceface, Hope, Hadley, and E13 all have switchable end caps, and I'm sure there are a lot more front wheels, so you're not necessarily out of luck. Like for instance, the E13 end caps are 20 bucks. So it's like kind of not the end of the world when you're buying a $2,000 US fork. The Fox guys said that it really, really had to be this axle. They tried 6 different axles in different materials. They tried, you know, steel and aluminum. They tried 15, they tried 20, and they tried multiple different thicknesses. And all of their testers kept coming back to this one. So the steel axle, it is. And sure enough, in case you're doubting it, there you go. That is a steel through axle. So another note about cable routing, it's different. I'm not gonna say it's great or terrible. It's not terrible. I would also say it's not great compared to what I'm used to coming from a normal right side up fork. And maybe that's just my familiarity. I think they've done a really good job of making the cable routing on this inverted fork as good as it can be. Probably. I don't know how it could be better, but I think that's just one of the difficult packaging constraints of inverted forks, and it's like fine. You have to adjust your brake banjo. That was something I had to do to make sure that it doesn't rub on the inner stanchion. So make sure to check that out before you start riding, because potentially you could wear off all your finish, which would really bum you out and probably be very expensive. And then for the upper cable guides, the hose actually just travels loosely through there. So as the fork compresses, it travels up through those cable guides. So the carbon leg guards are actually optional. And if you wanted to forego running those, it comes with just this little cable guide so that you can still clip the cable guide in and keep your hose where it needs to be. I think these are pretty sweet. I don't know why you would want to take it off, except maybe just to look so moto. Installing the wheel is an adventure. It's easiest to do when the fork is upside down. That's really the way to do it, but I'm just not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna give it a try like this. Yeah, I can already see the damper leg is up. Yeah, so the Fox guys basically recommended just always flipping your fork upside down when you're putting the wheel in. So this part is different for sure. And the sequence for this is you get the axle tight, then you push up and down to try and get the lowers lined as much as possible, jiggling the floating axle loose. Non-drive side first, and once that's tight, no, I'm not finishing it with a ball end, I'm not an animal. I'm gonna jiggle it again, just make sure everything's happy and straight, and voila. Not the easiest, not the worst. 5 bolts, just like it used to be. If you ever had a Fox 40 or an old 26-inch 36, it's just like that. Since we've got the fork upside down, I don't know if you can see that blue cap, but that's actually the air cap. That's really important. You can potentially burp float fluid onto your brake rotor. If your bike is right side up and you try and get your Schrader valve onto there, it can eject a bunch of float fluid onto your brake rotor or potentially your caliper, which is a bummer. So Fox really recommends flipping the bike upside down for doing any pressure checks. I think my biggest concern when I saw this fork and got invited to the camp, it was just that it was going to be a flexi noodle. I've heard that consistently from every inverted fork ever, and some riders don't find them to be flexi noodles. I think typically riders who are on the lighter end of the spectrum, and by they I mean past available inverted forks before this one. But I'm pretty big and I flex things a lot, and I never ever thought that the Zeb was too stiff. So I wasn't really worried about that. I was more worried about the front wheel suddenly turning 90 degrees violently in a rock garden because the fork flexed out in torsion. And that hasn't been a problem even remotely a little bit at all. Stuffing the front tire into berms, smashing through rock gardens. It's had great torsional stiffness. By the way, they have these handy little arrow guides for the cable guides. But yeah, in those big violent berms, it's been really confidence inspiring. Like, it kind of feels like I have a downhole fork on. And similarly, when you're smashing through rocks and holes, the front tire just feels so locked in and precise. I'm not saying I rode like Aaron Gwin today, but what I will say is I felt like Aaron Gwin looks when he rides, in the sense that I definitely did not ride like Aaron Gwin, but I felt like I had really, really good front tire placement. Like, the front tire could go exactly where I wanted it to go, and that was really confidence inspiring, and the rear tire could kind of take care of business behind. I felt like I had very, very accurate tire placement, like it wasn't getting pinged around, and like it was absorbing anything that it needed to get online. And then once I was online, it was tracking so well. Again, Snow Summit has holes everywhere, so you have to get really weird to set up wide for turns. And the fork was so confidence inspiring, and when I went back to the Zeb, it felt like it was pinging me around, and like the front tire would push and wash a little bit as I was trying to get up there, as opposed to the Podium was just like eating stuff on the way up there, which felt really, really good. Yeah, by comparison, the Zeb felt just more chattery and harsh, like I had more like eyeball jiggle. There's a ton of high-speed chatter and just medium-sized, endless rough stuff at Snow Summit, which is one reason I think it's such a good place for suspension testing, because it's relentless and there's nowhere for suspension to hide. One of the things that the fork is absolutely best at, compared to, I think, any fork I've ever ridden, but any sort of high-speed berm, it absolutely crushed it. There was no sense of flex at all, but it wasn't diving in the middle of berms. So I get kind of sketched out in the middle of berms, because I don't know if it's because I'm a tall guy, or I've just got a big badonkadonk, or if I just need to be more confident or whatever. But basically, for all of recorded history in the middle of berms that G out, it feels like my fork is diving a little bit and it's really sketchy. And if I were only setting a bike up for berms, it would be way, way harder, sort of like when freeriders talk about their rampage setup. That's what my berm setup would be, but that would be totally unrideable everywhere else. And so it's sort of this compromise. And I think that's the best word for what I feel about my Zeb, pretty much every other single crown fork, is that it's a compromise between having enough support and still having it pick up small chatter without beating you up. And it felt like it was way easier to get this fork set up in a place where it had phenomenal support and it stood up high and proud in the travel, but was tracking really, really well. What's crazy is it's a 170 mil travel fork and I'm coming from a 180 and it's not really bothering me at all. Yeah, like there's no sense in which I feel like I'm missing out on 10 millimeters of travel. And I feel like if I went down in pressure even more, I'm guessing it would get even softer. So one of the things they talked about a lot at the product spiel in Austria, when they were giving us the little pep talk, was they went with what they call damper first approach. I think a lot of Fox forks have been very air spring first in terms of the support they give and where they direct you for tuning. So like fork too harsh, try taking some pressure out of it. Fork diving too much, add some pressure. And similarly messing around with volume reducers a lot. And with this fork, I think because of the extremely reduced section that they have in there, there's so little friction going on by comparison, especially as it goes through the travel, especially as it's hitting rough bumps and flexing, that they can kind of just keep adding damping. Apparently this damper is significantly firmer than a similar 38 damper because they can keep adding damping without getting harshness, which is super cool. I felt like I had enough support, but I kept not getting bottom out. And so I kept going, well, let's just take out a little bit more air pressure and add a little bit more damping. And that kept feeling better and better and better. I finally hit a point where maybe there was too much damping and I backed it off a click on high speed and 2 clicks on low speed. And that felt amazing. So basically by the end of the day, the fork felt completely phenomenal. It's like the best this bike has ever ridden. Some credit too goes to Steve and the team at Vorsprung, because the rear shock feels really good, which we've got in for testing. But yeah, the fork was just completely phenomenal. And again, that just speaks to this idea of not having to make the same trade-offs that I'm used to. Having a fork that would be good for jumping because it has a lot of support into a lip and when you overshoot a landing to flat, or you could have a fork that's good on chatter and good in terms of traction, but you can't have both. And I'm not saying this fork doesn't have trade-offs, but it just really didn't feel like it the same way. Give it the old squish test. It's actually just unbelievable to me how good it feels in the parking lot. It's heavy, it's expensive, it looks kind of weird. Maybe it looks cool to you. It's not available in 180, and the cable routing's kind of weird, and the fender's kind of weird, but oh my goodness, this thing is so sick. Like, if you get the chance to ride one of these things, please, please, please ride it. It's as good. I like am running out of words to describe how good it is. I also got the chance to talk with Ariel Lindsley from the product team and with Nico Malali about the product development process on this fork, and with everyone's favorite lovable grump in the racing paddock. I got to talk with Jordi Cortez from the race tent.